Hi, my name is Hilma, and this is another video about my mental health journey and how I cope with neurodivergence. So, for today's video, I'd like to take it back in time to 2018, which is when I first set foot inside a psychiatrist's office. In 2018, I was a couple years removed from college. I had my bachelor's degree in computer engineering, and I was working an entry level job at some corporation in the Chicago area. So I had a decent life. I had a job that I was doing well at. I was hitting my goals and my metrics were good. But I definitely noticed that I had hit a point in my career where I couldn't really advance past that point. Like I say this genuinely, I wasn't good enough to get to the next level of whatever I was doing at that company in terms of understanding the giant code base that we were dealing with, in terms of understanding how computers are even supposed to work. Even though I had a computer engineering degree, I felt like I just do not understand how technology works and how it's all connected and what affects what and how do I design things that don't break and work fast and work correctly. This was all so much, and I had hit a wall in my career that I really wanted to bypass so that I could get to the next level and, continue advancing in my career as many of us want to do. So, I sat down and I thought, like, okay, what is my problem? I don't understand what's happening because I cannot sit down and focus on the academic texts and the actual code base at that company, which it was like hundreds upon thousands of lines of code all spaghettied together that you needed to like decode and understand in order to like add something to that code base. I was not able to sit and like unspaghetti the system that we had at that company in 2018. And I thought to myself, I started researching online, like, why am I not able to focus? Why can I not crack this? And I had kept coming back to, oh, you probably have ADHD. You must have ADHD because you can't sit still and you can't focus and your attention span is bad and you have sometimes struggled with this and that. And whatever you find when you look up ADHD symptoms, I checked off all of them. And I am paraphrasing a little bit, but that's kind of how it went. I wanted to advance in my career. I couldn't for a variety of reasons. And I started looking into why that could be and how it's, my problem. And I came upon this phrase ADHD, which I hadn't really heard at that time. And so I looked up like ADHD therapist, ADHD doctor in my area. And I just went to the first psychiatrist that popped up and I sat down in his chair and I was like, here are some problems that I have. And he took a multiple choice questionnaire test of like 8 questions that were like, have you ever struggled with lack of focus? Do you ever feel like you can't sit still in a chair? Just really basic questions like that. And I was like, well, yes, yes, yes. Like all of these are true for me. And in that moment, I was like, aha, ADHD. This is my problem. This is what I have been struggling with this whole time because I have had that problem all my life. I know I'm smart. I'm not gonna sit here and say like I'm a dumbass, but I am not the fastest at picking up new skills. And I'm never like the top of the class. I've never been like, the top 1% at anything that I do. I'm above average at best. And I knew throughout my life that even though I went to really top tier middle schools and high schools when I was growing up in Iran, and I was academically competitive compared to the national average, I knew that I wasn't hitting my full potential because of my lack of focus and my attention span and just my inability to sit still in a fucking chair, excuse my language, and do my homework correctly, pay attention to the teacher in class. Like I always struggled with focus and attention and being able to sit still. And so when this questionnaire was put in front of me and it kind of validated, maybe I've had ADHD all this time, and the psychiatrist that I had went to see, he was like, okay, cool. Here's 10 milligrams of Adderall. You take one in the morning, you take one in the afternoon, and then you're good to go. Go ahead. Here's some Adderall. Let's go. And I was like, cool, I don't know what Adderall is, but I'm going to go to the pharmacy and I'm going to pick this up and start taking it and see what it does. And y'all, Adderall changed my life in some ways in a good way and in some ways not in such a good way, which is what we're going to get into throughout this whole story. So I went and picked up Adderall. I took the Adderall and got in the car and went to work. And I should not have done that. Do not take a brand new med and then start driving. That's so dangerous. But I didn't really realize it at the time because I'm like halfway to the office and the Adderall hits for the first time. And my brain was, it went quiet. My brain shut up for the first time in what felt like my entire life. Like there were no thoughts up there. It was silence. And I remember driving to work with this Adderall hitting me for the first time and this silence that I was experiencing for the first time in my brain. And I was like, finally, now I can calm down and focus. And so that really catapulted the next several levels of my career. Throughout the next 4 years, as I took the same dosage of Adderall twice a day, 10 milligrams twice a day, so like 20 milligrams in total of instant release Adderall every day, I doubled my salary. I got like 3 promotions. I switched to like a higher caliber team within our company. I wrote so much code. I understood the ins and outs of our system, like everything that I never thought that I would be able to understand and do. I was able to do it while I was taking Adderall. And we'll get to it. I am no longer taking Adderall. I still understand those symptoms and or systems, and we'll get to all of that. But I I really, really, really flourished for a good few years taking Adderall in my career and just increasing my income and all the things that you kind of expect yourself to do when you're in your 20s. You expect yourself to grow and succeed and establish yourself in your career and all of that. At the same time, I knew and I realized that the come down from Adderall at night, because it was instant release Adderall. So, like, you took one in the morning, it worked for about 4 to 5 hours, and you took one in the afternoon, and it worked for another 5 hours. So, by the time I got home from work and I was unwinding and ready to go to bed, I had really bad crashes off the Adderall. And for some reason, it didn't register for me that this is something that I should tell the psychiatrist about and potentially change the med or something like that. I just started smoking a lot of weed because I was having a really bad come down from the Adderall, and I wanted to like mellow that out and like really relax before I went to bed. So I just started smoking a bunch of weed. And mixing weed and Adderall is a choice. One that I did not research, did not give a lot of thought to, but looking back, I'm like, holy heck, what a bad idea. If you have ADHD and you're listening to this and you are on some kind of stimulant, do not mix it with marijuana. I'm sorry, you have to pick one. That's my personal opinion. I am not a psychiatrist or a therapist or a clinician or a doctor or a nurse or any of that, but it's my personal opinion from my personal experience. You should not mix stimulants and something like marijuana. You also shouldn't mix stimulants with alcohol, which I would occasionally do on the weekends because, like, let's say it's a Friday night. Well, I took the Adderall throughout the day because it's a Friday, I work. And then I go out with my friends and I binge drink because I'm like, what, 25? That's kind of what you do. And so I'm mixing alcohol with Adderall as well, which is also not good for your brain. None of this is good for your brain. Throughout some other traumatic experiences that I will not get into in this particular video just because I don't want to go jump around from one topic to another, I experienced my first marijuana induced psychotic episode. A super traumatic event happened in my life. I spoke up about it. I was attacked for it. And while I was being attacked, I was really emotional and scared and feeling really damaged and hurt and abandoned. And I smoked a lot of weed. I did not stop taking my Adderall. Something clicked in my brain, not in a good way. And I had a psychotic episode. I had a manic episode. I was up for like 4 days with no sleep. I was hallucinating and being psychotic. deranged thoughts were coming out of my mouth. I even threatened someone, not like their life or like with violence or anything, but like I was threatening people with like the tone of my voice, because of how angry I felt, because of how hurt I felt in the moment when I spoke up about this traumatic event. And so I had my first psychotic episode. I was eventually hospitalized, and I spent 3 weeks in a psych ward in some hospital in Chicago that I don't even remember. And I only remember 3 days of the 3 weeks that I was in this hospital. Like, they had to pump me with so many drugs and like high dose medicine to calm me down from that manic episode that I do not remember most of that hospital stay. Like, I kind of just woke up one day and I was like dressed in not my own clothes, and there were people around me, and they were like, "Are you going to eat today?" And I was like, "What do you mean am I going to eat today?" And then I looked at myself in the mirror, and like I looked deranged, and I was just in this hospital all of a sudden. Like, I was in my house, and then I was in a hospital with like not my own clothes, eating weird food, nurses asking me strange questions, papers being shoved in my face. Like, do you want to sign away your rights to your mother? That's like a paper that they put in front of me when I just woke up out of my manic stupor in this psych ward at whatever hospital I was at. They were like, here's a piece of paper that you can sign to turn over your rights to some extent to like somebody else so that they can take care of you and like become your legal guardian when I'm like 20 something years old. Like, that's an actual piece of paper that was shoved in front of my face. And thank God that I read it carefully, and I was like, no, I don't want to turn my rights over to my mother. My mom's not a bad person, but like, why would I do that? I'm an adult. Like, no, I have a job and a life. What's happening right now? What's happening is you're having a manic episode and you need help. But I didn't get that help. I got out of that hospital as soon as I possibly could. They couldn't keep me there anymore legally, and I just went home and I went back to work with whatever dignity I had left, because everyone in my life knew that I had had a psychotic episode. Like, when you have psychotic breaks, people are going to find out, right? So I go back to work, and it takes a few months, but I kind of get back on track. Like, and I haven't changed my habits, by the way. I'm still taking the Adderall. I'm still smoking the weed. I'm still drinking alcohol from time to time. I haven't changed anything about my life because I did not believe I had a problem. Because the reason that I had that psychotic break was because of what other people were doing to me. It's how they were reacting to me coming forward about this extremely traumatic event in my life. So I was like, well, it's not my problem. It's their problem. They acted like this. They caused this. And I have blocked those people out of my life at this point. I no longer talk to any of the people who hurt me in that way. And I was like, well, I don't talk to these people anymore, so this is not a problem. This was just a really strange experience that I had because I came forward about this traumatic event and I was not treated fairly in response. And I'm just going to have to try to move on with my life and deal with the hurt that I feel from being abandoned from these people that are really close to me and have been close to me my entire life, dropping me on the floor as soon as I said something controversial about some traumatic event that happened to me, right? I hope I'm making sense. I don't know if I am, but I'm going to keep talking. So I had a psychotic break, and then I just went back to my life, kept taking Adderall, kept smoking weed, kept drinking alcohol. And it happened again. Wouldn't you know that not changing your behaviors, it doesn't fix anything about your mental health. So a couple of years after that first episode, I had another traumatic event happen. Another prolonged, stressful period of my life occurred. This one, if you are not just happening upon this video and you kind of know my personality, I am from Iran. And back in 2022, a young woman named Mahsa Amini was killed in custody of the Iranian morality police, the Islamic Republic morality police, and it started an international movement to try to bring down the Islamic Republic. And I was very heavily involved with that because I did grow up in Iran, and a lot of my trauma and we'll get to it, but like the lack of focus that I experienced throughout my whole childhood, and the whole reason that I thought I had ADHD was because I was growing up under this regime, and that's how it was affecting my brain and how my experiences were shaping me, right? So I had a prolonged, stressful period in 2022 of processing and dealing and advocating for the death of Masa Amini and what the people of Iran were asking for at that time, um, which is the downfall of the Islamic Republic. And eventually, and this is a story in and of itself, but I was in another country when it all caught up to me. All the stress, all the marijuana and alcohol and Adderall use combined, all of it caught up to me all of a sudden. And I had another crash out. I had a complete, this one was worse. I had a bad psychotic break. And I will go into more detail about it in another video, but I almost got arrested in a foreign country because of my behavior and how strange I was acting and how I was talking to people. And I got accused of something that I absolutely did not do. Like I may have been psychotic, but I did not do the thing this person accused me of doing. I have full memory of this episode. And I did not do that. There was no reason for me to do that. And I would never have done the thing that they were accusing me of, which is theft. They were accusing me of stealing $3,000 in cash from somebody's bag. And I was like, no, why would I have my own money? Like, I'm the one paying for your hotel room, bitch. Like, excuse my language. I won't get into all that, but the girl who I was staying with, who wasn't really a good friend of mine, this was like for a wedding, so we were all just kind of rooming up. She accused me of stealing $3,000 from her purse while I was having like the worst manic episode of my life. And the hotel staff came to my room and they were like, we're going to search your room. And I was like, you're going to search my room. I'm going to search this room. I will get on the floor. I will lick this carpet clean before I let anyone accuse me of stealing $3,000 from them. I don't care what is going on. And I did. I got on my hands and knees in front of all these hotel staff and I searched the trash cans, all of my belongings, to show them that I was not hiding $3,000 anywhere. And by the way, I'm the one paying for this room in full anyway. You can check my credit card statement. I'm not stealing from anyone. If anything, people are stealing from me. This video is so rambly. I'm not experienced at this YouTube thing, so you'll have to bear with me. And I really appreciate if you're listening along. But I had another psychotic break in 2022 after a bunch of stressful events. And I don't know how I made it back to the United States, because I'm in a foreign country having this episode and I have to like somehow find my way back home. But I did. I eventually found my way back home. The point where I lose my memory here is like, how did I make it from O'Hare Airport to another psych ward? I don't remember how that happened. I don't remember how I remember getting on a flight from that country to America, but I don't remember what happened after I got to America. I just remember waking up in another psych ward. And the same thing happening again, where I'm like dressed in weird clothes that isn't mine, having to eat food that I don't want. People giving me pills that I don't understand. This time I was in kind of a classier psych ward at first. Like it was like a corporate burnout type of situation in like a ritzy neighborhood in Chicago. But then they transferred me to like this dingy state hospital on the south side of Chicago with like some very interesting characters. And it was an interesting experience all around. I actually liked that stay in that hospital. I met a lot of cool people. It was gross. I mean, the hospital wasn't very well kept or maintained, and the nurses were not very nice. But the people I met in that psych ward were cool. I discovered some new music listening to what they were listening to. We did art together. We did crafts. We watched shitty TV. It wasn't a bad stay. But this is the point, and this is when I had met a friend through social media who was like a clinical psychologist. And so this person was now a friend of mine, and this person knew that I was in a psych ward having my first or my second marijuana-induced psychotic episode. And they kind of called me in the hospital and they were like, listen, if you want to keep your job, here are the steps you're going to have to take. You know, I was like, what do you mean keep my job? Like in my head, I was like, my job is the most important thing in the world. Without my job, I have no money. Without my money, I can't pay my mortgage or pay off my car. And if I don't have a place to live or a way to get around, I'll be stuck. What am I going to do? I need my job. So tell me what I need to do to keep my job. Tell me. I'm sick and I'm like panicking, right? And so my friend is like, you need to go to something called a PHP program. And a PHP program is a partial hospitalization program, which is where after you get out of the psych ward, you enroll in one of these centers, assuming you can afford it and that your insurance will cover most of it because they're expensive. I think I paid like $5,000 out of pocket to go here for 4 weeks, which is not chump change, but like thankfully I was in a financial position to be able to afford that at the time. But you go to this partial hospitalization program, which is like just extensive group therapy, basically, for like 8 hours a day almost. And they kind of ease you back into civilian life. And they teach you how to cope with your emotions and how to plan a routine so that you're not scrambling around your day making bad decisions. So I went to this program for about 4 weeks. I was still somewhat manic the entire time. Like I wasn't fully off of the episode, but I went to the program and I was in the addiction group. So there were different groups. There was like a mood and anxiety group, a trauma group, and then like an addiction group. And I was in the addiction group because duh. And the doctor there and the doctor that I was referred to from that program were all just like, yeah, you can't have Adderall. You have addiction issues. You can't take an addictive stimulant substance anymore. We're not going to give you Adderall again. And I was like, huh? No, that's the medicine. I took accountability for my mental health back in 2018. And I went to a psychiatrist and they gave me the questionnaire and it said I have ADHD. And I know I have ADHD because I've always struggled with focus and attention throughout my entire life. And I could not sit still when I was a kid. And I had all these symptoms that the internet says that I have. And I have ADHD and I need Adderall. What are you talking about? What do you mean? Right? Drink some coffee. And I was like, what do you mean? And they were like, no, first of all, we're not giving you Adderall. We're going to put you on an antipsychotic and a mood stabilizer. And I was like, what the fuck? Pardon my language. And then they were like, also, you need to be sober. Like, you can't smoke weed anymore. You have had 2 marijuana-induced psychotic breaks that landed you into hospital for multiple weeks. You have almost lost your job twice because of your behavior. You can't smoke weed anymore. And, like, no alcohol either. Alcohol was never... I'm not saying alcohol wasn't an issue for me. Like, it's another substance that isn't good for you. But, like, my addiction, my drug of choice, if you will, was marijuana. I love me some weed, right? And somehow, like, if a regular person in my life, even my friend, the clinical psychologist who guided me towards this PHP program, if that person had told me that you need to go sober for a while, at least for a while, that you need to be sober and you need to stop smoking weed and no more Adderall or whatever for you, I would have been like, F you, F off. I am going to decide what I do with my life. I'm not listening to any of you people. I know what's best for me. And this has been working fine. And it's just these really stressful situations. And if you people would just stop stressing me out, I wouldn't be in this predicament. Now would I, right? Because the first time I had a psychotic episode, it was because people close to me were attacking me for coming forward about a traumatic situation. And the second time, it was because of the compounding stress of what was happening in my home country and how I was trying to advocate for those people catching up to me. And I was like, well, this is all someone else's fault. This is not my fault. I don't have a problem. I can do whatever I want. But in this PHP program, the way, and they're experts at this, right? The way they phrased it was like, well, can you do it? Like, challenge yourself to stay sober. And I was like, a challenge? Well, I'm naturally a competitive person, so I'll take your challenge. What, you think I can't quit pot? You think I can't put down a bottle of whiskey? Like, yeah, I can do whatever I want. Like, I'll show you. I'll go sober for a whole year. And that's exactly what I did. I stayed sober. When I went to that PHP program and got out, I put on a calendar challenge in my phone and I stayed sober, completely sober for an entire year. It was hard. There were days where I was like, oh my God, I'd be hanging out with my friends, and obviously I'm not going to put pressure on my friends to be sober around me. And so, like, they'd be drinking, and I'm like, man, I can I just have a shot of vodka? Nope, we're on a sobriety challenge. We need to prove to those therapist people that we can do this. So I was on my 1 year sobriety challenge. The day that the 1 year ended, I went back to smoking and drinking immediately. Like, this was not emotionally healing in any way. It was just physically purging my brain of some of the effects of all that marijuana usage from the past few years. But like, as soon as that 1 year sobriety challenge was over, I went back to exactly what I was doing before. And my therapist, who I was referred to from the PhD program, was like, "You sure about that?" My therapist is really cool. She doesn't like force me to do anything. She doesn't like outright tell me like, "Here's my advice and you should follow it, and if you don't, you're going to be in trouble." I don't know if any therapist does that, but mine certainly doesn't. She was just like, "Okay, well, let's if you want to try moderation, let's try it, let's monitor it, let's go," right? And so I tried it and I monitored it, and I noticed pretty quickly that even though I felt a lot better, because as I said, at this point, I'm no longer on Adderall. They're not giving Adderall to me. They're giving me an antipsychotic and a mood stabilizer, and I'm taking those even though I don't want them. Because I'm working with like one of the best psychiatrists in Chicago right now, and these are the meds that I take, and they work for me. So I'm taking these medicines, but I'm also still smoking weed. And because of the medicine, I believe I felt so much better, first of all. Like, the antipsychotic and mood stabilizer combination that I'm on, which is 10 milligram Abilify in the morning and 150 milligram lamotrigine at night before I go to bed. This combination has, and we'll get to it, it's changed my life, my personality, and solved all my problems. Like, genuinely, right? It's a miracle combination for me. This 10 milligram Abilify and 150 milligram lamotrigine at night with 10 milligrams Seroquel as needed, just like in case something's coming up. I take that at night, go to bed, wake up a new person, I'm good, right? So because I'm on these meds and I'm feeling so much better, I'm like, I can tolerate a little bit of weed. And I was sober for a year. So like, I'm not addicted. I stayed sober for a year. Now I'm on the right meds, they say. They're not going to give me Adderall again. And I can smoke pot from time to time, right? And that's kind of the stage of life that I'm still in. I go in and out of extended periods of sobriety where like I won't smoke or drink anything for several months, and then suddenly I'm like, it's time to moderate. Let's go back to moderation. And then I pick up the pot and I open a bottle of whiskey, and I notice within a couple days that I haven't stopped in the past 48 hours. I haven't stopped smoking and drinking in 48 hours, and I'm like, maybe we do have addiction. Maybe everyone around you isn't full of shit, and maybe you need to stop. And I'll stop again for another few months, and then in another few months. This happened last week or a couple weeks ago. I was like, I'm a little stressed out and I haven't smoked pot in like 6 months. I'm going to go to the dispensary. And I buy some weed, and then I realize that I can't moderate it. I can't make a little pack of pre-rolls last me a week. I smoke them in succession very quickly until I'm out. And yeah, that's kind of the stage of life that I'm in. My phone's running out of storage, so I'm going to delete some videos and continue this series in a second. Okay, I deleted some files. I think I could talk for another 5 minutes and wrap this up because I didn't realize how long I was rambling on for. Yeah, that's the stage that I'm in right now. I'm not fully healed. I'm not perfect, but my goodness, am I better off than I was 8 years ago or even 5 years ago when I was convinced that I have like extreme ADHD. I don't have ADHD symptoms anymore, by the way. Ever since getting on, I have bipolar disorder. I'm on an antipsychotic and a mood stabilizer for my very much evidenced bipolar disorder. I have had 2 manic episodes and periods of depression, and then another manic episode, and then another period of depression. I had to go to the PhD program again because I was feeling like offing myself. This was like 2 years ago, and by the way, I have a new job. I don't work at that company anymore because after 2 manic episodes, I had lost all credibility amongst my teammates, and I was like, I just need to start over somewhere else. And I have another job now, and I like it a lot better, so that's good. But yeah, I had these manic episodes. I'm still not 100% sober. I'm still working on that, and I might be working on it for the rest of my life. I don't know. I can't predict the future. But I can say with certainty that I am so much better off without taking the stimulants. And again, this is not a video. I am not giving you any advice. I don't know who you are or what your mental health situation is. I'm just saying, like, even though I ticked off every single ADHD symptom that there was. I ticked them all off and I took the stimulant. I did what I thought I was supposed to do. I went to a psychiatrist. He turned out to be a quack doctor, by the way. He's retired now, or I would sue him. I don't feel like doing all that right now, but he was kind of a quack. I hopefully he never sees this video. But yeah, I am better off without the Adderall, and I don't have ADHD. I took a neuropsych eval, and the only reason they put the ADHD thing on my record is because I had previously been diagnosed with ADHD by this quack doctor. Like, they didn't find ADHD symptoms during my neuropsych eval, but they still put it on my record in the results of the neuropsych eval because they're like, well, you've been previously diagnosed with it, which doesn't make any sense to me. I'm like, well, if you don't see the symptoms, then now why are you saying that I have it? So technically I have ADHD, but like I don't, and I don't ever want to take stimulants again. I'm doing just fine attention wise and focus wise at work and in other areas of my life on the medicine combination that I'm in right now, the Abilify and the lamotrigine, the antipsychotic and the mood stabilizer. I'm doing better now than I was before. It may be a sign of just like maturing into an adult, I guess, but like, and I have better focus. I have better ability to follow through on tasks. I don't necessarily think I can go back to like a hardcore coding job at this point in my life for two reasons. One, I was never super talented at it. And B, I hate programming. That's something that I realized after I got out of the hospital for the second time and I sat in front of the computer at my old job and I was looking at the code base and I was like, this is a fun puzzle, but I hate programming. Like, I like solving problems, but I don't like the C++ programming language. This is not something that I want to excel at anymore. And I was really good at it. I'm still, if you put code in front of me today, I'll read it. I don't care what language it is. Once you like learn a couple of programming languages, you can kind of figure out what the rest of them are doing, even if you're not like an expert at it. You put code in front of me today, I'll tell you what it does. I might be able to tell you where it's going wrong, but I don't want to be a programmer anymore. It's just not, it's such a competitive field that like you have to have a passion for this in order to succeed, and I simply do not have the passion, so I'm just going to do whatever I'm doing right now and then figure out what I'm doing next whenever I need to figure out what I'm doing next. I'm doing like IT tech support, UI testing type stuff right now, and I'm having fun with it, and it's like less stress, same income, which I got lucky with, but yeah, so trying to wrap this all up, I think that you need to take responsibility for your own life, right? Like in 2018, I did that. I took responsibility for what was going on with my roadblock in my career path. I went to the psychiatrist, I got the ADHD meds, and I started this whole journey. I think you should take responsibility for your own life, but like do more research. And reach out to people in your community for advice from time to time. Like they might have experiences and they might see things about you that you don't necessarily notice yourself. Stand up for yourself and don't make your own decisions without consulting with the doctor that you're trusting to give you medicine. Like I should not have been using marijuana to come down and cope with the Adderall crashes that I was experiencing, right? Like that started a whole addiction cycle. I wasn't previously addicted to weed. I liked it, but I didn't like need it. But after a while, I felt like I needed it. And to this day, my brain has that response to like some stressful situations where it's like, let's just shut off everything and smoke some pot and wind off and wind down and shut off from the world. And I will still do that, knowing that I shouldn't. I will sometimes still do that. And then I come out of the relapse and I go sober again, and then it's a whole thing. We're working on it. But yeah, stand up for yourself. advocate for yourself. Don't just take the internet's word for what it is. The internet doesn't know you. The internet told me I have ADHD. Doctors told me I have ADHD. I still have ADHD on my record. I do not have ADHD. I no longer struggle with focus anymore. I can even watch a movie in a theater without wanting to like get up and leave because I'm like so distressed from having to sit down for an hour and a half or 2 hours or however long movies are these days. Like, I'm able to sit in a movie theater seat and watch a movie. That's not something I was able to do before. And that's not something that Adderall fixed either. But I hope I'm making sense. Like, don't just take. I think, like, ADHD specifically, because you get the stimulant that makes your brain work fast and makes you smart and shit, is like really trendy. Everyone wants to have ADHD because everybody wants Adderall and Vyvanse and Ritalin and whatever so they can work harder and make more money. And what's wrong with that? Hey, I did it and I'm living a comfortable life right now. It works for a lot of people. It's really dangerous to be misdiagnosed or to diagnose yourself and go buy pills off the street even with something that you may not actually have. I'm not saying nobody has ADHD. I'm saying I don't have ADHD, and I never had ADHD. I had trauma. I had complex PTSD starting from my early childhood experiences, which caused my lack of focus and attention. And now that trauma has been addressed in therapy, I don't have those same attention issues. I take my bipolar medication because, like, I for sure have had 2 psychotic breaks, and I have for sure had depressive episodes that didn't make any sense. And so I take those mood stabilizers and the antipsychotics, and they work perfectly fine for me. And they have actually helped me, get a full night's sleep, pay attention to my daily activities, and like come into my own body in a way that I had previously been fully detached from before due to like the trauma that caused the complex PTSD and all that. I was also diagnosed with autism, which I'm assuming it's mild autism because like I'm able to function and live my life by myself perfectly fine. Yeah. I think I'm going to end the video here soon. Sorry, I've been rambling for a lot. This is probably the longest video I've posted on anything so far. But yeah, again, take accountability, be responsible for yourself, but also be careful while you're doing it. It's not just a case of I'm going to go to any psychiatrist and they're going to fix my problems for me. It's not a case of like I'm going to sit in a therapist's office and talk about my problems and it's all magically going to go away. You have to put in the work and do your own research and think truly and deeply about how things are actually affecting you, and you'll be fine. But it might take some trial and error. And that's a scary thought, right? Like, I don't want to trial and error with my brain's functionality, but like, hey, sometimes that's what happened to me, and I'm doing fine ish. So yeah, I hope that I didn't ramble on for too long. I'm going to end the video now, and have a nice day.